Seth and I have been best friends for the past 8 years. And while we have some interests and hobbies that overlap, for the most part, we enjoy very different things. We're not pros, we're just fanboys. Welcome to the Lonely Fanboys, the podcast where we catch you up on what we care about. I'm Joe.
I'm Seth.
And Seth, I've finally hit that point.
What's that point?
I've hit the point where I'm bored of video games too.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's been a rough week. The quarantine has done some really weird things to me, Seth. You know, like the first few weeks, I was like, this is amazing. I get to do all the things that I've always wanted to do, which is nothing, you know? And then that like boredom started to set in, and it's like, okay, I should be productive somehow. And then I was like, I'll just check off a bunch of video games I've been putting off playing. And that's been great. I played so many games. And now I'm at that point where I'm like, I feel irresponsible for playing video games. So then I feel like I should do something to better myself as a person. It's horrible.
Joe, is this a joke, or are you serious about this?
I'm 100% serious.
You're not setting up a joke?
This isn't a joke. This is just
Joe,
me. I'm
gonna need you to stay on the line. Help is on the way.
Okay.
Hello, my friend is in desperate need of some help. This is a fake prop phone that I'm using. Welcome to the Lonely Fanboys. Joe's sad. I'm a mess. That's what's going on. Did you really play all your video games?
Yeah, I just hit this point in the week where I was playing video games and I was like, what are you doing? So then I started feeling like motivated. So like I went to YouTube to see like activities I could pick up. And I'm going to talk about some of those later.
Okay.
Yeah, so we like to start off each week asking the 5 questions. Those questions are, what are you watching? What are you playing? What are you listening to? What are you reading? And for every great audio podcast, we'd like to have a visual representation. We make this joke every week. What are you wearing?
I want to clue the listeners in at home. Joe did that transition so cleanly, it's going to sound like it was cut. It was not. He just straight up transitioned that because he's a master of podcasting. I just want to throw some appreciation to Joe in the chat there for how clean that was. Sorry.
Thank you.
That's back to the episode. That was truly incredible. I'm always in awe of you, but go back and listen to that. It's gonna sound like it's cut. I promise it's not. Cross my heart. That was so good.
You know how like okay, so there's this comedian Pete Holmes. He has this joke where he's like, you know how you ruin every great moment? You bring up the point that it's a really great moment. You know how you ruin a really smooth transition? By pausing the podcast to point out how smooth of a transition it was, Seth. Now I gotta ask you, what are you playing?
No, hold on, I got it. So yesterday, no, I'm gonna do it. We're gonna power through. I can't cut, or else there's no point to anything. So yesterday, as of recording this podcast, yesterday was Mother's Day. And my mom lives in Madison, which is 4 hours away from where I live. But also, I haven't been able to go see her because it's quarantine. And I was supposed to be there like 2 months ago, and I didn't get to do that. And so I drove down to Madison, and we hung out for a while. And I was just there for the day, and then I drove back up. It was really awesome. I got to see my whole family, and it was great. My mom's favorite game to play right now is not a video game. For maybe the first time on this segment, the answer to what are you playing is not going to be a video game.
Oh my gosh.
I know that's going to be hard for our dedicated listeners to understand, but please, please bear with me. There are things you can play other than video games. So what we played last night was Mexican Train Dominoes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a classic game. I'm pretty sure it's like hundreds of years old. I did not research this segment. But it's so fun. It also takes a whole night if you're gonna play like from 12 on down to ones. Like you can spend like hours of quality time, and it's a simple game to understand, but like, there's like still a ton of strategy in it. And so you can be like having a drink or having a something else if you like to do those sorts of things. And everybody's just like sitting around and talking. And at the same time, it opens the door for so much trash talk to like, to across the table, just like to your family. Super, super good. Super fun time.
That is so cool. So for listeners, they might not know, I'm part Cuban. And when I went to Miami for the first time to visit a bunch of family I'd never met, we went and checked out Calle Ocho, which is the Cuban district of Miami, and it's super cool. And there's one little area where it's a park, and there's a ton of old Cuban guys just chilling out, playing dominoes all day. And what I learned that day, I'm pretty good at dominoes.
Ooh.
I jumped in and I started playing, and they were talking to me in Spanish, and I had no idea what they were saying, but they were being really supportive. And my dad was like, "You're doing really well," and I was like, "Okay, cool."
That's great, as long as he wasn't lying to you.
Yes, he might have been. I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Thanks, Dad, if you were. But I also learned that Cuban dominoes are a little bit different. Most dominoes go up to 6 in dots. Cuban dominoes go up to 9.
Interesting.
Yeah. So fun little fact.
I wonder why that is. If anybody out there is a domino expert, please come on the podcast.
Let us know.
We'd have so much fun.
Definitely.
Joe, what have you been playing this week?
Well, I said I was feeling guilty about video games. That doesn't mean I wasn't playing video games.
You didn't like it.
I just felt bad. It didn't mean I didn't do it. But I was looking around on the eShop on the Nintendo Switch, and I came upon I went over to the free section, and I came upon a little gem.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a free game. It's called Asphalt. And
like
in the game,
like the road concrete?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's and just as the name might suggest, it's a race car game.
Oh, okay, cool.
And I've been having so much fun with it. It's a very arcade style racing game, very reminiscent of like old arcade race car games. Where like one of my favorite things, I want to say the Fast and the Furious arcade console had this feature where if you slammed the brake twice, you'd spin around really quick and you'd get like bonus points for it, right?
That's great.
Which makes absolutely no sense how that's happening. But this game added a little like bonus to that, where if you're next to a car, you can demolish it.
Oh,
yeah. So like if you're zipping up and you're getting close to the person in front, and you just get close enough to do that spin attack and you smash them, you can zoom ahead and get that first place, and it's so satisfying.
That's amazing.
It's a great little pickup. It's totally free. There's in-game purchases, but I have not to this point found like a reason to. You slowly unlock new cars as you progress in the game, but again, like the cars you start off with and you get to upgrade are perfectly serviceable, and it's satisfying to try to strive to unlock the future cars, but I'm having a great time.
You have convinced me to pick that up, so
definitely
that was a good pitch. I'm really excited about that. I love racing games.
There is multiplayer, so we might have to play it against each other.
Well, now it's on. Now it's a competition.
So what have you been watching, Seth?
So after we recorded last week's episode, I was like, you know what? It's been a while since I've seen a Star Wars movie. And they are all on Disney Plus, as we talked about last week. And so I was like, we spent a significant amount of time talking about the sequel trilogy. And I was like, I've only seen each of those movies once. I should go back and rewatch them just to make sure that what I think about them is right. And so I went back and I watched Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Awesome.
Yeah, it did actually change my opinion of the movie.
Really?
And kind of, having seen the place that the trilogy goes to, it gave me some new thoughts about the trilogy as a whole, and it made me like Rise of Skywalker even more.
Ooh, okay.
Just from looking at the opening scenes where we're meeting Rey and Kylo Ren, or or Ben, and we're meeting Poe and Finn, and looking at where they come from, and then sort of looking at the ending that they get. I remember being sort of disappointed of oh man, that didn't feel very fulfilling, or it felt kind of tonally different from the rest of the franchise. But then I watched the beginnings of the 7th movie again, and I was like, oh no, you know what? That actually is pretty consistent with the franchise. Then you can get into the semantics of well, should it have been like that? I don't know, but for what it is, it made me like the 9th movie more.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, what have you been watching this week, Joe?
Well, second verse, same as the first. You wanted to go back and watch some Star Wars. I wanted to go back and watch some Star Wars.
Oh yeah.
Right after the podcast, I was like, oh man, I feel like there's a lot that we didn't cover that I want to talk about later. And so Ann and I were talking. We're like, well, let's just go back and start from the beginning and watch all of them.
Yeah.
Like what we did with the Marvel movies. We haven't been doing that as consistently. We are on episode 2 now, but when starting out, we were thinking oh, okay, we'll pull the Band-Aid off. We'll watch episode 1. We'll just get through it. And so we poured ourselves a drink, and maybe that had something to do with it.
Good choice, yeah.
But gosh diggity dang, I had a fun time with this one. I had fun watching Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Interesting, because I think we both spent a lot of time kind of ragging on it in the last episode. Yeah,
we did, and maybe I just mentally set the bar so low in what I remembered of that movie. But and so it really got me thinking. I think the thing that happened was the original trilogy is so significant on a cinematic level, right? Like technology wise, storytelling wise, sci-fi, all of these elements put it on such a high pedestal, right? And so you can make the argument that no sequel, no prequel could ever accomplish what the original trilogy did, right? And so I think we just all mentally set the bar so high. I'm not gonna full on defend the movie. There are still so many like cringy moments that still haven't aged great. The effects need a little bit work, but when you just go in expecting to watch a campy, goofy sci-fi, it's so much fun. Yeah. It's so silly, and it's so sometimes nonsensical, but sometimes when you really think about it, it makes sense. I just had a great time. And I don't feel ashamed about that. I had a fun time watching Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I think sometimes in this fandom world, we can get kind of caught up in the importance and the reverence for Star Wars, and that we all love these movies so much, and so we want to take it really seriously. But the original trilogy is goofy and campy and weird and funny, and there's only so much darker and more evil and more action sequency that you can get with these movies. Sometimes the place you have to go to improve on the form or to try to make a new Star Wars movie is sometimes you gotta get a little goofier,
right?
And the Phantom Menace is goofy. It's a weird little movie.
Yeah, and the pod racing scene I was having a blast with, and holy cow, the final battle between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, yeah. I was getting goosebumps from just the soundtrack. The iconic scene of him busting out the dual lightsaber. It's just the coolest stuff ever.
The combat sequences in the prequels are, I think, the best of the 3 trilogies.
Yes.
That when we sort of talked about that last week of there are so many people who put their heart and soul into the storytelling of the prequels, even though it wasn't necessarily in the script. That's a place where it was they spent years developing individualized fighting styles for each character, which is so cool.
And last thing I'll talk about, because we need to move on.
Yeah.
But a lot of people talk about how the prequels are soulless and they don't have a lot of character. And watching episode 2, I started to feel that a little bit. I started feeling the lack of love that was put in. But the first movie's got a lot of love. Mm-hmm. I really felt it in that, where everyone you could tell was just sky high working on that.
Yeah.
And yeah. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
Try next time you feel like watching episode 1. bust out Disney Plus, give it a watch,
Yeah.
and set your bar as low as humanly possible, and you will just have a blast of a time. Seth.
Yes.
What have you been listening to?
So I threw it back to an old classic this week. I can't remember exactly why. I think I heard somebody talking about the Beatles, but I was like, you know who I haven't listened to in literally years? Like the Beatles. I'm like kind of a big music person. I like to hear those guitars and drums and things put together sometimes. And I was like, I think it's been a while since I've like gone back and just like appreciated. The Beatles music still holds up. Like, that's not a hot take. I know they're like best band ever created, maybe, but like that music's really good, even here in 2020. And so I listened to the album Revolver, which is one of my favorites. I think
me too.
Maybe less critically acclaimed than some of the more famous Beatles albums. But so it's, it's really maybe like a middle of the road Beatles album, and I was listening to it and I was like, man, this stuff is still so good. And it's like every song is made with heart and passion. And there's the thing that I love about Revolver is that there are a few stinkers on it. Like there are a few songs where it's like you can tell they're like playing with a certain idea. They're just like 20 years too early for like the full execution. Like the music technology just isn't there, but like their ideas are so sound, and it's so like, it's just so nice to like listen to people who are like masters of their craft. Just like the Beatles are masters of rock music, like through and through.
Eleanor Rigby might be one of my favorite Beatles songs. Yeah. And every time I listen to that, I have to listen like with good headphones. Yeah. Because it is just like overwhelming how powerful that song is. I don't know, every single time I listen to that song, it just fills me with emotions, and it's so so good.
It's like the simple innovation of like we're doing rock music, and we're doing it in minor key with like orchestra, and that like from there you could probably trace the birth of like modern symphonic heavy metal, like that.
Sure,
they're doing the same thing that like, but like that's that's sort of the evolution of that idea that I think that starts with the Beatles. It's
totally,
maybe I'm talking completely out of my butt. I don't have a music degree or anything, but like that's just, for me it's like I can appreciate the same things that I appreciate in like a band like, I don't know, Skillet or something, like who have like a cello player as part of their band, that I can appreciate the same things there that I appreciate about Eleanor Rigby. Super cool. So Joe, what have you been listening to?
Well, I have been listening to The Boys. I've been listening to the Gus and Eddie podcast, hosted by Gus Johnson and Eddie Burbank. It's on YouTube and on other podcast providers. And they are both just great comedians. Are you familiar with them?
I am. I have a question for you as well.
Oh, okay.
You told your Will Arnett story last week. You have a small Gus Johnson story, don't you?
I do, and I was building up to that. I got to give them the light of day, really quick. So Gus and Eddie, I will definitely tell that story. Don't worry.
Cool.
So Gus Johnson and Eddie Burbank have both been YouTubers for a long time now. They've been creating really great videos. Gus puts out these hilarious, like short 1 to 5 minute max, like comedy sketches where he just like takes a joke and he does every iteration he can possibly do of it, and it is just so funny. He's a Midwestern boy, and you can sense that in every joke he's got. It is just delightful.
Watching his videos always makes me feel like it's like a remnant of like the early days of YouTube, when like everybody was just doing this like sketch comedy sort of thing. It wasn't these long form sort of ad grabby videos, people making like podcasts and stuff on YouTube. who would do that? He's really a vestige of the old good times, when like who uploads 30-second YouTube videos anymore? Gus Johnson does.
He totally does, and they're always super successful.
Yeah.
And then he's got a co-host, Eddie Burbank, who is from Chicago, and he puts out these more like long and thought out, like 30 to 40 minute videos where he like picks a subject of his childhood, like nostalgia or something, and he just makes fun of it and talks about it for a while. It's just great. And so it's kind of weird, but like, Gus is like this Midwestern dude from Wisconsin, and Eddie is this guy from Chicago, and they are both simultaneously talking about my childhood.
Wild.
Yeah, because like they both have things that relate to like my aspects of me growing up in Chicago and aspects of me growing up in Wisconsin, and it's so fun. I want to hang out with these guys at some point.
Oh, for sure.
If I could.
Gus and Eddie, come on the pod.
Yeah, well, yeah. But anyways, so Gus Johnson, I came upon on YouTube freshman year of college. And at first, he really like grinded my gears. I did not like the guy. And after some careful introspection and really like diving into it, I realized I was just jealous as heck at him that he was still able to put out these brilliant, hilarious 30-second videos and get so many views. But I would like angry watch his videos for some reason.
Oh man.
Where I'd be like, he's not funny, which like just gave him views. But this is a long way to get to.
Gus and Eddie, don't come on the pod. Never mind. It's not gonna be a good time.
This is a long way to get to. I came across one episode where he's wearing a Badger Boys state shirt. For anyone who doesn't know, Badger Boys, most people probably. Badger Boys state is this thing that Wisconsin does for high school boys. There's also Badger Girls State for the girls, where it's a week-long summer camp where one student from every high school in the Wisconsin state are invited to all come together to the summer camp, and we collectively build the 51st state of the United States. It's like a mock government thing.
Yeah, it's like a whole like leadership thing too, right? Just like you're networking with other people your age.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So I saw Gus in that video wearing the Badger Boys shirt, and I was rushed with a wave of memories because so in my group in Badger Boys, we were all like put in these small groups where we would have like town meetings, and we all stayed in a dorm room, right? In the dorms, there was 3 groups put in one dorm, and that was like you were the town, and then you were in like the what's beyond a town, the city. Yeah, the
county?
City, that's the word. The county. Thank you. So we, my small group was the town, and then there was a county of 3 groups total.
Got it.
And one of the camp counselors of one of the other groups in my county, I'm 99.999% sure was Gus Johnson. And I have such a strong, vivid memory of one morning, we like all the counselors were trying to like do some goofy thing to like impress us, and Gus just started busting. Well, the guy who I remember being Gus just busted out this goofy Running Man dance, showing off that he could do it, and doing it like with 100% determination and seriousness, which looking back is the funniest thing ever. And if I ever get a chance to meet Gus Johnson, I'm going to ask if that was him, because like, again, I'm 99% sure that was him.
But what if it's not?
And if it's not, it's going to be so awkward. He's just going to be like, oh, I was like a Badger Boy once, but I wasn't a counselor. Don't know who that was, bud. Sorry. And I'm going to be like, okay. And I'm going to walk away, and it's going to be Will Arnett all over again.
And that means that there's somewhere else in the state of Wisconsin, there's somebody who can do a perfect Gus Johnson impression.
A perfect Gus Johnson impression and a very impressive Running Man.
Yeah. 2 skills I wish I had.
But that's the Gus and Eddie podcast. Seth, what are you reading?
So, a long time ago, I signed up for the New York Times Daily Morning Briefing because they kept bothering me about subscribing to the New York Times, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to spend money, even though it's like $1 a month or something. I was still like, or $1 a week, maybe, I don't know, something like that. I was like, I don't want to do that. And then at some point, they were like, here's a deal. You can get some more articles for free if you sign up for our daily briefing, which we just send to your email inbox. And I was like, I'll send it to my crappy junk folder email one that I have. I'll never read that. And ever since the, coronavirus has hit, it's actually been super comforting to like wake up every morning and check my email and have it's always at least one, but normally two emails of just like a summary of some articles from the day's headlines that are just like,
Yep.
hey, here's what's going on. Just like keeping you in the loop, keeping you informed. Like, New York Times is a trustworthy news source. So it's like I check that and then I go on social media. And so then it like gives me like a nice filter to be like, I don't think that's true. Or people like freaking out about a thing. I'd be like, you know what? They're right. I saw that in the New York Times. It's like the very modern version of me like getting my coffee and reading the morning paper, except that it's like me in my bed with my cell phone.
Yep. I am subscribed to the exact same thing. It has been such a great thing to like, have, and I don't have to like fact check if someone who posted something on Facebook is true or not.
Yep.
I can just have the comfort of knowing like the New York Times said it, it's probably true. Good to know.
So I didn't know you're also subscribed to this. What do you think of the recent drama, Joe, that has happened to the Daily Briefing?
Oof, you're calling me out.
I
haven't looked in a while.
Oh, that's okay. I know. It's drama to me. There's a new editor of the Daily Briefing.
Oh my gosh.
Probably somewhere in your email inbox is a very dramatic email. I thought it was very dramatic, where this guy was like, hello, I'd like to introduce myself to you. There's going to be some changes to the Daily Briefing. Now it's called The Morning instead of the New York Times Daily Briefing.
Oh.
And he was like, this guy who wrote it before is an excellent reporter, and I'm honored to be filling in his shoes, and I'm going to do my best to make sure you're getting the most accurate and up-to-date information. I hope you can trust me, or something like that. And I was like, wow. I'm devoted to you now, sir.
That's a lot.
Thanks for sending me emails every morning. And truly, after that, I think the morning briefing has been pretty much the same. It's like it's a pretty cut and paste formula.
You didn't change the font or anything?
No, just the name.
All right.
Yep. But the subject lines of the emails are still the same as they've always been. Just like once you open it, the name of the actual newsletter is now
that is so
The Morning.
Funny.
Yes, big drama in the world of the New York Times Daily Briefing. What have you been reading, Joe?
So finally, I know you've all been sitting on pins and needles.
Ow! These pins and needles in my butt.
I got tired of video games. What have I been doing? So earlier in the week, I came upon this YouTuber. He's called The Retro Future. And what he does
that doesn't make any sense to me, Joe.
Yeah, not the best name. Great content. Not the best name. But he takes old retro consoles and he refurbishes them. He cleans them up. He alters them in some ways. He took the way I found out about him is because on my feed I saw I put 2 screens on my Game Boy Advance SP.
Why?
Why? Exactly. He just wanted to see if he could. So I've got it sitting around somewhere for the video watchers. 1 second. It's literally on the floor right here. And I'm back. I am so sorry, listeners, but I'm about to show everyone what the Game Boy Advance SP looks like. It was this little Game Boy. It folds. It's fantastic. But anyways, as you can see, it has 1 screen, and he just decided to take that off, take 2 separate screens, fuse them together. It was a whole process. But I fell in love with it. Was super wild, and I totally fell in love with his videos, and just like what happens every time I find a new YouTuber that I like, I watch everything that he's ever made. And so I started watching these refurbished videos and I was like, I've been playing many video games. I needed to do something. And so I busted out my old NES and I opened it up and I completely cleaned it out. I took out the lockout chip so it doesn't do that weird blinking thing that anyone who's ever played an NES knows. If it doesn't like the card a little bit, it'll just start blinking and it's very annoying.
Yep.
But anyways, so I started doing all that. I cleaned it up. I'm pretty happy with how it looks now. It wasn't too dirty, but it looks good now. And I got it all together and I realized I have no TV with with VGA ports.
Oh, no.
So I think I fixed it. It looks pretty good to me, but I have no way of testing it right now unless I went home to my mommy and tried it there.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
You spent all that time, all that effort.
I spent a good couple hours, and it was a fun little activity, and I have no idea if it was worth it or not.
The real NES refurb was the friends you made along the way.
Yeah, I guess. But it's given me the confidence to maybe start going into my other old consoles. I might try to do something with my Game Boy, try to clean it up a little bit.
Put 3 screens on it.
Sure. But I know that the battery on this guy it's a rechargeable battery, and it's been crapped out for a long time. Whenever I want to play my Game Boy, I have to leave it plugged in, which isn't great. So maybe I'll try to order a replacement battery and try to do that. And maybe I'll get super sucked into the world of fixing up retro gaming consoles.
Yeah, and this is actually the last episode of The Lonely Fanboys. Now we only fix up retro gaming consoles.
Yes, we are now starting a little repair company. Joe and Seth, SNES Repair. Look for us only in the Midwest. Sorry, we don't do international shipping.
Nope, can't do it.
I gotta know, Seth.
Yeah?
I gotta know.
Wait. No, I know what you're about to ask me.
Know.
No, Joe, you don't get to do it this time. You don't get to do it. I'm going to ask you first. Joe, what are you wearing? What are you wearing, Joe? Joe, what are you wearing? How are you going to deal with that? What are you wearing, Joe? You answer first.
Well, I am wearing a nice blue flannel shirt. It's a button up.
I'd like to apologize. That was some very aggressive energy. I just did not want you to put my ears into hell.
Listen. You know, we got to support each other. We got to get better at this, okay? Okay. I'm here for you. You got to be here for me.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Love and support.
So
I got a nice blue flannel.
Wow,
I really enjoy it.
I love your flannel.
Thank you. It has elbow pads. I feel very professorial.
Wow.
Yes. My aunt, my Big Tia got it for me, and I love her very much for it. Thank you, Big Tia.
Thank you, Big Tia. That you can do some like professional leaning on things.
Oh, I can, and I do. I am also wearing the 2012 WHSFH official t-shirt from when Seth and I did competitive theater in high school together. We were real sports people.
Between this and Badger Boys State, we're diving into like a niche of like South Central Wisconsin.
Oh my gosh. Like a very small group of people are like getting all the nostalgia vibes right now, and everyone else just wants us to move on.
Yeah.
Speaking of moving on.
Yeah.
Seth?
Love and support, Joe. Love and support.
Seth.
Yeah. Yep.
What are you wearing?
Whoa! I like this new energy. I'm into that.
Just thought I'd try something different.
Thank you. Well, let me tell you what I'm wearing. So on the bottoms, we're gonna start there first. On the bottoms, I've got pizza socks. Again, I think I wore pizza.
The pizza socks are back.
Yeah, they are, but they're different ones. I got a box of pizza socks, which is about the funniest gift I've ever received.
All right.
I've also got these nice blue sweatpants on, and then on the top, the big piece de resistance is a shirt from Bradley University. Bradley University. That's a joke that's gonna be really funny in like 5 minutes.
I don't get it.
You know, maybe we should just go to the break, and then when we come back, I promise the joke will make sense.
Seth, I don't get it. So, Seth, I know it's been pretty rough when it comes to sponsors.
Yeah, it's been pretty tough out there.
Well, because we're talking about Legos this week, I really wanted to try to get them to sponsor us.
Oh my goodness, Joe, that's a great idea. Did you hear anything back?
Yeah, yeah. They said they don't want anything to do with us.
Oh, I'm sorry. That sounds horrible.
It's okay. So I pushed forward and I tried to reach out to Mega Bloks to see if I could get the next best thing.
I don't know about next best, but they're fine. So, did you hear anything?
Well, they said, we don't want to be your building block sloppy seconds, and hung up.
You called them?
No, email. Why?
Oh, well, dude, that sucks. But don't worry about it. We'll figure something else out. We could do,
Well...
Oh, did you find something?
I did.
Okay. What's after Mega Bloks?
This week's episode is brought to you by Lincoln Logs.
They still exist?
Boy, do they! And that's not all. Seth, are you familiar with such hits as Lego Star Wars, Lego Batman, and Lego Indiana Jones?
Yeah, of course. Lego has killed it with brand deals, bringing classic after classic into the Lego world.
Well, Lincoln Log hopes to bring the next big hit with Lincoln Log's Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
That's right! Each Lincoln Log Breaking Bad kit lets you feel like Heisenberg himself. Build such classic sets as the RV Meth Lab, or the Basement Meth Lab, and who could forget everyone's favorite, the Neo-Nazi Meth Lab.
You know, for kids!
Each set comes with a Walter White action figure and one surprise character from the show.
Wow! Mine came with emotionally distraught Skylar!
Get your Lincoln Logs Breaking Bad set today.
Yeah! Science! Bitch!
Welcome back, everyone. This week we are talking about Legos. And Seth,
Yeah.
it looks like you got someone sitting next to you.
You bet I do. This is the punchline to my very funny joke. I'm wearing a shirt from Bradley University, and we are joined this week by my guest and wonderful roommate and Lego expert, Bradley Johnson.
University Johnson.
Yeah.
Welcome, Bradley. Are you excited to talk about some Legos?
I'm so excited to talk about Legos. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Absolutely. So first off, I just got to know, like, what makes you an expert on Legos?
Well, I would say, I mean, I'm not an expert, maybe. I'm certainly not like a master, but I have been a part of the Lego Club. I'm a Lego Club card holder.
Hey.
Whoa.
At least I was for a certain time.
What's the Lego Club?
Well, the Lego Club was a magazine subscription, more than anything. That's what I treated it as, where you got Lego magazines once a month, and then I think it was every 6 months you got the really valuable one, which was the Shopper magazine, which the other ones had like more like stories and like comics and things like that. But the Shopper was where you got to see all the sets and like the new stuff that was coming out. So that was the really exciting one, especially when they came out with new themes or things like that. So, but yeah, I've been doing that for years. According to a website called, I think it's either Brick Builder or Brickmaster or something like that, I have also held the title of Brickmaster as a different Lego club.
Whoa.
But then
What does that mean?
it was a very short-lived like other like Lego Club website that you could get like certain exclusive content, and you got shipped like very small like seasonal sets like once a month or something like that. You also got Lego Star Wars Revenge of the Brick, which was a silent this was I think before the Lego games came out.
Oh wow, okay.
So this was before Traveler's Tales got the Lego games, and so they came out with this thing that was like 5 minutes long on Cartoon Network that was like it's very Traveler's Tales Lego game humor, but you got like a special edition DVD of that. But
Wow.
but according to this site, which I think is called Brick Builder, I think my brother one time counted it out, and together we have a total of 75,000 individual Lego pieces.
Oh.
So
Holy cow.
I like them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
That
Wow.
So I think that qualifies you as an expert.
Oh, thank God.
I would say so.
I know I'm sure there are people who have more than you do, but many people who have fewer.
There are many people who have fewer. That's important.
That makes you an expert.
It's the like. But then there's like the next level, like the Lego Master. That like if you look up videos online of people who, I mean, they devote their lives to this. They have collections that are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. They go into competitions and build these, bigger than life sets, or based on like castles or like spaceships or things like that, or replications of movies. Like one person did this insane thing that was like a replication of the big the mothership flying saucer from Independence Day.
Oh,
and they
nice.
built the city to scale, and I'd say
Wow.
that the saucer was like maybe about as big as, well, no one can see it, but Seth's bed.
it's a queen
Yeah,
size
it was
bed.
like a queen
Okay,
size
but
bed,
it's a
but then the
queen
city
size
was
bed.
built like to scale of that, and it was tiny in comparison to this thing, but it's really cool.
Wow.
But yeah, I am not to that level.
Okay, sure.
But that brings up an interesting question. What's your favorite thing that you've ever built?
Oh, that's pretty easy. My brother and I, when I was about 7 years old, we made a castle together because we're both big fans of fantasy and science fiction, but we always, like, whenever we played, like, pretend or play, as we call them, imaginary games, we always played.
My brother and I call them the same thing. That's
oh my god!
Strange connection we have.
I never
so
knew that
cool.
someone else did that. But we made a castle, and it was, at the time when I was I might have been like 6 or 7, it was taller than I was.
Whoa.
And
Wow.
and so that was it was based on this game that we had played together, and it was really cool, and I don't think that either of us would have had that particular brand of creativity now, because it was that sort of like devil may care childishness about it, where it's like, yeah, it's a castle, but there's also like a computer in the library, you know?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it's that
because of course.
yeah, it's like it didn't that stuff didn't matter. Like you didn't think about like, oh well, you know, in this world building of like, we can't just retcon a laptop, and like we didn't care. We just like, yeah, there's a computer in the library, and so
this was a thing like you designed, you and your brother, like this is not like from a set or a box.
No,
I could not go out and purchase this castle.
No, you could not purchase this castle. We did.
Interesting.
However, have a huge. Our mom came in and we described the whole thing, and when she recorded it on a camcorder, we still have it on like a VHS tape that she used. Remember when like cameras could record to VHS?
Yeah.
So it's on that, and it's like very like in-depth detailing about all the little like actions that are happening. Like there's a band in a room. But what's really funny is if you watch people describing these like big, like, you know, thousands of dollar like competition castles or things like that, and the little like actions that they have doing, like someone like falling over, like falling out of a tree or whatever, the way they describe it is exactly the same as we described it when we were kids, which is super interesting. And it's like the same sense of like humor. It's really strange how similar they are. I'm not saying we're like them, but I'm saying
no. You were born a Lego master.
Well,
You're the chosen one. You and your brother.
The chosen one.
Oh man.
Joe, I want to know, do you have any specific Lego memories as well?
Yeah, so my introduction into filmmaking was through Legos. When I was very little, I stole my mom's VHS camera and I started making little stop motion videos with my Legos. And I just got so obsessed with it, and that was my real introduction into Legos, but that's when I really started getting obsessed with them and seeing what I could accomplish with animating the Lego figures. My favorite set that I've built, it's interesting because you know, I don't know if this is a real thing, but from the Lego movies, they kind of push the Lego movie. They kind of set up this idea that there's people who follow instructions and people who are free builders, right? And so it kind of sounds like from what you just said that you were more of a free builder. Is that
it's
fair?
true and it's not true, because I think like I always really loved building the sets. I was never someone to open like Star Wars set and say well, probably more likely for me like a Knight's Kingdom or Lego Castle set. Even though I had a lot of Star Wars ones. They're not going anywhere. But even I would definitely build them first using the instructions,
Sure.
but also ever since I was a kid, my brother and I didn't call them instructions, we called them constructions, which makes so much more sense to me. But we would look at them and we would build them and we'd be excited to build them, but we also had this other vision about it where we were like, ooh, now we have this type of piece.
Sure.
We have the big how do I describe this? The big they were in a lot of the bigger castles. They were these big sort of bases. This big base thing with 4 miniature towers that could come out here and then one with a really big center portion. Yeah. So seeing my first one of those, I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna have so many opportunities to build later. And I mean, yeah, so it was a really healthy mixture of both, I'd say.
Sure. Yeah. See, for me, when I was little, I would follow the instructions, I would build it, and then as soon as I finished, I would set it on a shelf. And I would just stare at it. I was much more like the process of following the instructions and building and completing the preset designs was so therapeutic to me. You know, I could just sit there and build something and spend hours upon hours doing it. And then in the end, just feel satisfied. And I'd put it on the shelf and I'd just walk away until, the next Christmas came around and I got the next big set, whatever that was.
Sure. Well, and that's funny because I did not actually take as much joy in the building process necessarily. It was always fun, but I was always really excited and sometimes more impatient than say my brother, who I played Legos with. He was always more interested in really getting the nitty-gritty details of something, and I was always very excited to be like, okay, I got the characters, I got the base of this, I'm ready to play. I'm ready to
Sure.
make a story with these. And so I definitely was not and there are certainly a few sets that I've had where they've become more look at them, but I always felt guilty or I wasn't using them to their full potential.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, again, at the end of the day, they're toys. They're meant to be played with.
But also, there's no one right way to use them, which is actually something that I don't love about the Lego Movie. I love the Lego Movie, I really do, but I think that there is also validity in the model building sense of Legos, not necessarily the toys, because that's what makes it such an amazing product, is that it is so multi-dimensional in how you can use it. And there are infinite numbers of ways that you can play with it or not.
Yeah.
And I love that about him.
Yeah. Seth, do you have any favorite Lego memories?
So I was always into the Lego City toys. Bradley, you raised a finger.
I was not.
You were not?
One I never really got into them.
Interesting. I think it just sort of started as a lot of my obsessions did, as things that people would buy for me over time as presents, and then I would accumulate a lot of them. But at one point I had every Lego City set that had ever been released. That's not true anymore because they kept making them, obviously. But,
yeah, it's one of the most lasting brands.
Yeah, but there was something. I think it really hit me whenever I was in that dump trucks, backhoes, construction, helicopters kind of phase. I think that set's also really known for bright colors and a very bright color palette, which to my little child eyes, I loved this set when I was 6, 7, 8 years old.
Sure.
Right.
And so to my little child eyes, it was aha! It's so exciting. There's overload.
Well, let me ask you this: with those city sets, because the reason why I never really played with them is that I saw those as more of the model sets.
Yeah.
I saw those as things that weren't necessarily to be played with. They were you'll build your city in this place and then you'll keep them that way forever. And because I was always more intrigued by the theme things, the things that were more fantastical, like the Star Wars sets or the fantasy sets, and so or the pirate ships or things like that. So did you find yourself playing with the city sets?
See, that that's really interesting to me, because for me, all the model sets have always been the like ones based off of franchises or a fantasy scene. And I was like, with the city sets, I loved just like messing around with it, because I was like, these are everyday objects. These are like, these things feel to me unimportant or like not as important as like the Star Wars sets that I had. And so I felt super comfortable like taking, my favorite thing to do was just to take the like all the helicopters and planes have this little flip up cockpit, and so I would take it and I would just put it on different things and just like see what I could make. So I'd make like a hammock by like flipping it upside down and like attaching two of them together, or like I'd make a building with like some really cool like flip up windows, or like I could make like a like a DeLorean with like just like taking a car and then like taking two of these like flip up cockpits and putting it on the side.
Funny. Yeah. No, that also reminds me of something else that my brother actually just told me the other day, where there was some like a newer like Harry Potter set that was out at a family member's house, and he was like, he picked it up because it was like sitting on a shelf, and he like started to mess around with it. Then he did some like action with it, like that like flip up type of thing, and the person who built it said like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Which is so fun. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Like you think of like it's funny how you build enough Legos and you sort of like, you intuitively know just like, oh, this is what it can do, or it shows on the back of the box, like like that type of like, the one I was thinking of is like, I have back when Chamber of Secrets first came out, there was this Dark Forest set, and there was like these spider webs that would like cling in.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Great set.
Bradley, do you have any other Lego media, shows, movies? Is there anything else that you've thoroughly enjoyed over the years?
I mean, something that I really, really enjoyed was the Traveler's Tales video games, because that was a huge moment. Like when the first one came out, which was Lego Star Wars episodes 1 through 3. This is gonna okay, so I'm just gonna say it. I like the Star Wars prequels, so this was a really great game for me to have. So like,
let's just set the record straight, Bradley. We do too.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
You weren't here for this, but part of the intro for the episode was us talking about how we actually like the prequels now.
Yep. I rewatched episode 1 the other day, and I fell in love with it all over again. And
seriously,
I really
did that before 9 came out, and I just it was awesome.
Yeah.
But anyway,
so you're in a safe place.
Yes.
No, but I remember getting that game, and it was at the time when my brother and I played on the computer together, and I can look down at Seth's laptop, and I can look at all of because I'm the younger sibling, so I was always player 2. And so to a point where it's like, if you put a Mario game in front of me, I would do my like best to try to play Luigi instead of Mario. Like, it's just so wired in my brain. But
that's good older brother training.
Yeah. It's conditioning. But I like looking down at the computer. I remember like F was like attack, and it was like WASD, and all of that stuff. And it was a really, really awesome thing, because we didn't have a lot of video games that were non-educational, that were just sort of video games. Like we had Jumpstart second grade reading, like that. Those were the video games that we had, and they were all on the computer. And we didn't get a game system until the PS3 came out, when Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga came out. And so we got quite a few of the Lego games, and I'm trying to think of like the ones that oh man, this is a dangerous game. I'm trying to think of which ones that I like the best out of the Lego games. Because like Lego Star Wars is amazing. Lego Indiana Jones was great. My family weirdly doesn't like Lego Batman, specifically the first one. I don't know why, because I really like it.
I also love Lego Batman.
Different.
I really loved it, yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Especially the second one, because that was the introduction of the open world hub of the Lego games, which they did awesomely for the Lord of the Rings and for Lego Harry Potter.
Yes.
And which is also one of the best ones.
Yep.
There are some of them that have been not as great. I have not played all of them, but some of the ones that, like, I really didn't like Lego Pirates of the Caribbean. I thought it was very slow and too many of the same level, but they always had the same sense of humor. And I remember how weird it was when they started talking, but that was a big part of what got me more into video games, like console video games.
Totally.
So yeah, that's another one of the bits of Lego media that I definitely consumed a lot of.
I think a quick thing about the Pirates of the Caribbean game that I think is the reason it maybe wasn't as successful is that, like, that franchise kind of already shares some of the humor of the Lego games, the sort of like tongue-in-cheek wink at the camera, where where that humor is really effective is in these like storied franchises like your Lord of the Rings and your Star Wars and your Harry Potter, where it's like, this is a very serious franchise, and Lego's out here just doing weird stuff. One of
the single greatest jokes in any Lego game, I mean, there were two. There's one in the first Lego Star Wars game after Obi-Wan like slices Darth Maul in half, and then he goes over to Qui-Gon, and then you see in the background Darth Maul's legs like look to the right, look to the left. Amazing joke. But then I think the other greatest joke in a Lego game has to be in Lego Harry Potter. There's the scene that so many people remember from Goblet of Fire, where Cedric is, again, spoiler alert, but when Cedric dies and his dad sees him at the entrance to the maze when Harry brings him back with the portkey and all that stuff. And, you know, there's that incredibly emotional scene that everybody remembers. But of course, in Lego games, like when a character dies, like they fall into like bunches of little pieces. So this happens to Cedric, and you see his dad be super sad, and then Dumbledore like puts his hand on his shoulder to console him and hands him a copy of like Cedric Diggory Lego instructions, which is one of the greatest jokes in any Lego game.
Oh my gosh, that is so good. Oh,
but you're right. That humor for Pirates of the Caribbean, I think, just didn't quite work.
Right, because it's already in there. Then. Yeah.
Right. So for me, I stopped playing around. I want to say like Lego Batman. I think that's the area where I stopped really playing the games. So the Lego games for me is very much a nostalgia entity for me. You know, you mentioned like the comedy. I remember so many cutscenes so vividly. In Lego Star Wars 2, at the end of Empire, when they're all, you know, looking out onto the stars, and Luke's hand pops off and starts crawling all over everyone. That was such a funny moment that was just like ingrained in my skull.
Yeah, great.
And I also remember like just the excitement of getting 100% on Lego Star Wars 1.
Whoa.
And then unlocking the extra room that gave you the extra level of Lego Star Wars 2.
Yeah.
That was so crazy to me. So, you know, talking about nostalgia, you know, those games were very much a part of my childhood. I played a bunch of those games as a kid. And talking to you prior to the podcast, you had mentioned that you'd played the Flash games.
Yeah.
And so really quick, those who don't know, the games we've talked up until this point are like main console, main PC games that big companies put together. Flash games are these indie games that are put on online that anyone can play on their computer. So tell me about some of these games.
Okay, so again, like I said, I did not grow up with video games really until I was in like 3rd or 4th grade. So these were my main output of like video game content was the Lego Flash games that they put onto Lego.com. And Lego.com was brilliantly organized into each of its different themes. Like there was a whole page for Lego City, there was a whole page for Lego Star Wars, a whole page for Lego Knights Kingdom, Orient Expedition, which is one of my old favorites, but they had on them different Flash games, and there were a couple different types. There were the ones that were more story-based. They were kind of like a living comic book where you pressed on it and dialogue would happen, and you'd have to figure out like small puzzles, like there's one of the Orient Expedition ones where you're trying to find a mummy, and then the mummy is just like yelling and screaming, and then there are a bunch of scarabs on the ground. You have to fit them into the right thing or things like that. But then there are also the Flash games that are more like, phone games now.
Okay.
Going with the theme of Orient Expedition, which was also, to describe that because it's not necessarily a super well-known one, Orient Expedition was this sort of pseudo Indiana Jones type of game with this Australian explorer named Johnny Thunder. And Johnny Thunder there were 3 parts to this theme. There was the initial part, which took place in India, and then there was another. I don't remember which one came first, but I think the first one happened in Nepal. So it was like a journey up Mount Everest. And then there was one on a journey through India. And then there was one in China where he was trying to find 3 artifacts to wake up this golden dragon. And they were very cool pieces of like a shield, a helmet, and a sword. Anyway, that's a diversion. But in one of the games in the Everest portion, there was one where you sort of fly up as a balloon, as this big hot air balloon up the mountain, and you have to, avoid projectiles and things like that. And you could save checkpoints. There was also one that was really similar to, you wouldn't call it a platformer, but sort of that like side-scrolling, like figure out obstacles. Okay, you unlock something over here, and then you go all the way to the other side of the map, try to avoid the Minotaur, and like whatever. But those were some of the most influential games in my childhood, and they're actually somewhere online. They're available because most of them aren't on Lego.com, but a lot of them got really elaborate with like platforming and like collecting coins and giving you lots of different functions. And like I still sometimes go back and play them. There was this other one called Pharaoh's Quest, which was again pseudo Indiana Jones but in Egypt,
right, where
he's the little explorer guy is going along and shooting mummies and looking for gold coins and trying to find treasure. But then doing it like in more of a platforming style.
Totally.
It kind of sounds like thematically the things you're doing in these games sound sort of like prototypes for the Lego franchise games that come later.
Oh yeah. I think that there was a lot of influence there. None of them were necessarily as complicated as that was. Right. I don't think that any of them were 3-dimensional. Yeah. Even I think most of them were just 2D side-scrolling type of things. But also a lot of them were just story based, where you click on something, someone talks, and as a kid this was fascinating to me.
Yeah,
totally.
And it sorry,
no, you go ahead.
I was just say it sounds like a lot of them too had a lot of like replay value for you. So as a kid, especially as a kid who like doesn't have a lot of video games to play, is definitely not playing like the popular hot titles or whatever that people might have been talking about at school. Yeah. Like you can still find a lot of fun in going back and playing these games over and over again. Yeah, because they're like robust. A lot of it
was, this may sound strange, but a lot of the fun came out of the fact that I wasn't very good at them. And the great thing about it was that since I wasn't good at it, it was because I didn't have that part of my brain that innately understood video games like I do now, where it's like I go into something and I'm like, okay, can I jump? Do I take fall damage? Do I take that? Like, there are those different things that you innately think of, or think that, okay, X is probably jump, square is probably some form of attack or whatever. And back then I just didn't have that. I knew that I could interact with it. I could see this theme that I thought was really cool. I could see this Lego set like moving, and it didn't really matter if I was good at it or not. And that's where the replayability came in, because I didn't have any stake to it, where I was just like, I'm just kind of futzing around, just going back and forth on this level in this labyrinth, and I don't know how to play it, but I'm having fun doing it, and I kind of miss that.
Yeah, well, that's so interesting. You could probably enjoy video games a lot more if you could get rid of the guilt of like being bad at them.
Yeah, I wish I could play Cuphead the same way I played those Flash games.
So you had mentioned with the big Lego video games that you played them a lot with your brother. Did you play these games with your brother as well?
Yeah, I mean, the computer was in his room, and
Okay,
honestly, a lot of I am a younger sibling, so a lot of my memories of this could be like watching my brother playing.
Sure.
So maybe your brother's bad at video games.
So maybe no, but the thing is that no, but again, he was playing them consistently. Whenever I logged in, and I was like by myself, like he was off at school, and I like didn't have to go to kindergarten until like 1 p.m. Like I was really bad. So yeah, I was
sure.
But yeah, we played. Legos were a really combined thing of ours. Even in, I talked about earlier the being a part of the Lego club and having the magazines come in. Whenever the shopper magazines, which have turned out to be the ones that I wish I could like find the most,
Oh, sure.
were because like you want to find those things of just like, oh, I want to remember all the sets that came out around this time or things like that.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I also have another vision with those, because I think of like, oh yeah, those were the ones that Kevin's my brother's name, and those were the ones that were mine. Like when we went through this magazine, we were like, oh, this is the one I want, this is the one that I want. And of course, when I was much younger, it was my brother saying, I want the 3 biggest ones, you want the 3 smallest ones. And I was like, yes, I do. Like,
oh.
And then I ended up getting big ones for Christmas anyway. So
Nice.
Joe and I are both older brothers, so
yes,
I think
we are the older siblings.
Particularly relatable.
So I'm not safe.
Yes, we were the ones who said you get the small sets.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And you can have it when I'm done.
Yes.
Oh, but that's the other thing. Like with Lego sets, with my brother and I, we are possessive over certain things about them. Like certain pieces are ours. And
Oh, wow.
He doesn't get to use my golden shield. He managed to twist it around a little bit because he had the Dragon Knight and the helmet and the sword.
Oh.
But now that shield is mine. Like, that does not get used by anybody else. And so
Oh my gosh.
And it was also interesting the politics of whenever we would share a set, because that would happen every so often of like a larger set that we would get for Christmas. I remember the first one that comes to mind is this big I think it's called like the Dwarves Mine. It was a part of the castle's theme, and it's got like these big trolls, and it's this really cool mine with like interactable mine carts and stuff like that with a bunch of dwarves in it. And so it was like when we first got it, it's like, okay, how do we build this? How do we build it? How's this gonna work? The biggest how could I forget this? So
How could
one
you,
of
Bradley?
one of my other qualifiers for being a Lego expert, you know, I'm doing air quotes with my hands because this is an auditory medium. But,
oh, you're in on the joke.
Yeah.
The joke we say every week.
but my brother and I, because I'm not from Minnesota, but I have family members who live here, so it was a big event when we went to the Lego store at the Mall of America, and it took us about 3 years to save up about $400, but we got the Death Star. Like,
Wow!
Yeah, Death Star.
You have to talk about that.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh.
So that is the biggest set that either of us own, and we had waited for years because I talked about like how I saw the city sets as being like models, but a lot of the Star Wars sets were just models. Like there was the Death Star that was like a handful of thousands of pieces.
Yeah.
Right.
That was just the model, and that's what its purpose was. And so like you built it, there was a little like plaque that went with it, and so that's just what it was. And we thought for years, like, what wouldn't it be so cool if we got to like play inside of it? And then I remember the first time that we saw in that shopper magazine, we saw that there was a playable Death Star, and we thought, holy,
Yeah.
we have to get this. And it took us like 3 years, and that was really the last big Lego set that we ever bought. That was our last big like Lego spending spree. And we got it. We took it home. And the thing is that this was unlike any Lego box I'd ever seen. This is also a weird thing. My brother and I are we are deeply nostalgic, and we save the boxes. We still keep the boxes. I know people that like throw them away.
I'm so
and it's
jealous.
Like, no,
I wish I'd done that in the past.
Oh, but there's so many different types. They're so great. But
it's so cool.
But we also save all the instructions, because like when you build the original creation, you want to rebuild the old set that you had. Like you want to build the Harry Potter Quidditch pitch. Like you want to rebuild that. But we got this Death Star, and most of the boxes had like they were meant for the picture, and then they had a certain like narrowness, or you could like lift them up, sort of like a pizza box.
Yep.
But this one was it was a cube. That's how big it was. It was a cube with 4 smaller white boxes inside of it. And it took us, we are like pretty good at building sets pretty efficiently and pretty quickly. I am faster than he is. And we tested this one day, because we got the set. Like, if you go to a Lego store and you like buy enough, they give you like a free like tiny like minifigure whatever. Like I think the things that we got were like little like archers or something like that, with a little like target. But we got so many of them because we had this huge spending space. So we had like 8 of these little archers, and we built them because something that we loved was like what you were talking about, Seth, of like the non-specific characters, the ones that didn't have a name. Like I always loved to get the I'm going at so many tangents, but like I love to get the Star Wars, they were called battle packs. That had like, they just had a bunch of droids or clones or stormtroopers or rebels or things like that. And they were so great because they were just like generic, and you could buy as many as you want to build your army up, which is one of the most brilliant things about Lego's marketing is that sense of like, you can build a mass of this and that. And so I was like getting the non-specific characters. So it was great to get those tiny little archers that was just like, we have a bunch of like characters that we get to name. But so then we each take one, and we was like, let's have a race to see who can build it faster. And the younger sibling triumphed that day.
Hey! Nice.
I am the faster Lego. But what that translates to is that this set, the Death Star, which is how much did it cost? It's about 4,000 pieces, because that was the price has gone up now, but the rule of thumb used to be like per 100 pieces that was like $10. Okay, so it's like $1 per 10 pieces. So if you found like a 100 piece set, it was $10. Yeah. But so that was $400 and about 4,000 pieces. Yeah. And it took us about like a whole day, like a 12 to 14 hour day to build the whole thing. And we went in shifts. It was like, okay, because there were clock in, clock out. There were 4 sets of constructions to go through. So we we build this bag we build the numbered 1 bag, and then you build the numbered 2 bag, and like we switched on and off, and like we also want to make sure that we each got interesting things to build, because so much of that is like structural, of like the base to like great block, great block. Yeah. But then also they wisely like divided up the minifigures to be in different spots, so you wouldn't have to like at the beginning like build all the minifigures and like get sick of building minifigures, which is like my nightmare, because I was ever since I was a kid I loved the minifigures and like having those.
That was one of my favorite things about sorry, this is a total tangent again. Please. One of my favorite things about the Lego City sets was that you got a ton of like just like generic minifigures who all had like different hairstyles or shirts or pants. And so it was just like a character customization of just like I'm gonna swap through the pants and the hair and the hats and whatever else. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Back to the Death Star.
And what I was telling you earlier, Joe, about how I felt guilty about the like not playing with certain sets and just building them. That's probably the biggest one, because again, that was the last thing that we really bought, and so we played with it a little bit, but we always had these like pipe dreams of like, oh yeah, one day we're gonna sit down and we're gonna play with this thing, and we never really did, because that was the last big thing that we built, and that's one of the biggest like sadnesses about like my career as a Lego person. But that was really the last big set that we got, and we didn't ever really play with it to the degree that I think I would have liked to. And the other thing is that we have to rebuild it, because since then we moved, and so we had to take it apart, and which is also for certain sets when you don't want to have to take them apart. That was actually a brutal experience, was moving from Colorado, where I'm from, to Minnesota, where my whole like family just uprooted and moved here to Minnesota, which is not where we are. We could be anywhere.
You don't know where we are.
But that was a brutal experience, because it took so much labor, and it's like, I'm not ready to take this apart. The other one, my personal biggest set, is this functioning motorized AT-AT.
Oh, sure.
That, like, yeah. And it's, oh man, that also took me about a day, but not because of its size, but to get the Mindstorm mechanism to work properly took forever. I was never one of the people that did like the motorized, mechanized, like Mindstorm, more like the robotic side. Another side of loving Legos is the robotic side.
Kind of spawned a whole like high school club experience for a lot of people. That's a whole thing people do now that's separate from the rest of Lego.
That side of Lego technology, and even like what's it called? I actually meant to ask you this, Joe, is since you're a filmmaker and that you got into filmmaking because of like stop motion Lego stuff, which I had a brief stint in.
Nice.
Did you ever use Lego Movie Maker? Because I know that there are a lot of, I think it was the Try Guys all said that they had like gotten into filmmaking because of Lego Movie Maker. So was that something that you did?
You know, I didn't really learn about Lego Movie Maker until like after I had like moved past that phase of like my filmmaking career. So for me, I started with just organically working with a VHS camera and just like hitting play stop over and over and over again, making the frames. And then my transition from that, I went into just Windows Movie Maker and tried to figure out how to carry that over. But I had never gotten into the Lego Movie Maker, that like program.
Because I had the same progression as you did.
I wish I had, because Windows Movie Maker didn't allow you to like do individual frames. And so I didn't really learn about thinking about animation and frames until like way later in my life. And so I had no concept of it, so I would just like hit play stop, and I would not understand at the time why, like, if I hit play stop longer, it would make the movement so much slower or things like that. Yeah. I actually have a story about the AT-AT walker. So when I was a Lilin, I went to the Lego store in Chicago at the Water Street Mall, and I went there with my great aunt, and we walked in, and I was so awestruck. I was looking at everything. I was so excited, and she said, "For your birthday, pick any set you want."
Wow!
Just pick any set. Yes, right? And so I was like, holy buckets. And so I was looking around, and I was looking at all of them, and I saw the AT-AT set, and I was like, this is super cool. This seems awesome. And my dad was like, yes, you should definitely go with that one. And then I kept walking, and I came across the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull set, the Indiana Jones Kingdom of the Crystal Skull set. And I decided I wanted that one, and my dad like kept trying to push me to get the AT-AT, and I brought it home. Did you ever build that one or see that one, Bradley?
I haven't.
The
Crystal Skull one. My brother has that one. The one with the big like the trifold like tower that like.
Yes.
Yeah, he had that one.
Yeah. So I thought it was pretty cool. The only thing that really annoyed me with that set, and why I'm still like kicking myself for not going with the AT-AT, is that like 50% of the set is just like a shell.
Yeah,
it's just
sure.
like a plastic mold shell, and then you build on top of it. So when you look at the box, it looks like this massive thing.
Sure.
But then when you take it out of the box, it's like just this pre-built shell, and then you just put some pieces on top of it, which was kind of a disappointment. And so yeah, you know, and me now, who's an even bigger Star Wars fan than I was as a kid, I'm just like, what were you thinking? you should have taken advantage of her better.
Amazing.
Always take advantage of your family, kids.
Always take advantage of your family when they say go nuts. So I also got to ask, who did the Death Star belong to?
Both of us, because we pitched in evenly. We both had $200 to spend, so it was, which was really cool because, like, again, my brother has been the person that I have done Legos with my entire life, and so he's the one that I can usually talk about this type of stuff with, or can say like, oh, look at this awesome thing, or when we both went through like our Lego dark period, and like that was we both could relate to that, and so we both had as our final big set something that belonged to both of us, which was really cool.
What is a Lego dark period, Bradley?
Yeah, I also want to know. The dark time. What could it be? What could it mean? Hey everyone, Joe, the editor in the future, talking. We decided that there was so much content this week from talking with Bradley that we are actually going to split it into a two-parter. So tune in next week for the thrilling conclusion of our Lego discussion with Bradley Johnson. I want to thank you so much for listening. You can email us at thelonelyfanboys@gmail.com. I want to hear all about your stories about Legos and what you thought about this episode. You can follow us on Twitter at TLF_pod. We want to highlight our new subscribers this week. Ann Arkand and Matt Dock, thank you so much for subscribing. If you want a personalized shout out on the next episode, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and ring the bell for notifications. Leave a comment in the description saying, hey, you're new here and you're enjoying what we got so far. Thank you to Alight the Night for our opening theme song, Consequences, and Seth is so much better at this outro than I am. Have a good night, everyone.